Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen across our beautiful country of Canada, our friends around the world in the known and unknown universe. Welcome back to your favorite Angry Canadian on the 20th day of October 2023. And man, I tell you, this week has been real difficult for me to make a video because so many things are changing constantly. And to be honest, I just got sick and tired of watching and listening to the bullshit coming out of our leader's mouth.
Here's a little song I wrote. You might want to hear it in your pod. You'll owe nothing and be happy. Ain't got no cash, ain't got no car, but 24 booster shots in your arm. Owe nothing, be happy. You can't even buy shit in the store because of your low social credit score. Oh, nothing. Be happy. You'll own nothing and be happy. Be happy and eat the bugs.
In Canada, we got a buffoon running our government who is very anti-Canadian. I can say that because some of the shit that he's done against Canada, it should be a crime. He should not be in the office. If we had any real police who stood up for our Constitution, our rights, they would arrest this bastard and slap his ass in jail. Just saying my opinion. You know, Trudeau is the most dishonest Prime Minister Canada has ever had. All the scandals that he faces regularly, and boy, he comes out of them like a school choir boy or a church choir boy. And then now we got Pierre, conservative. Oh, he's going to be way different. You can trust him. He's the anti-Trudeau. No, he's not. He comes from the same mold, maybe a little different coloring on him, but he's the same. These people are idiots working on behalf of something outside of Canada. I can't say World Economic Forum, UN, US, whatever. But they do not represent Canadians' interest. And they got the media to go along with them. What a beautiful relationship to destroy freedom and democracy.
Israel is planning to demolish up to 17,000 Arab buildings in the West Bank. That's according to a UN report. Human rights groups are accusing Israeli authorities of forcing Palestinians off their land to allow expansion for Jewish settlements. RT's Paula Sleer reports from Silwan, an area in Jerusalem, which has become a flashpoint in the standoff between Arabs and Jews.
Just steps away from the old city of Jerusalem,
a
bitter war over land is playing out.
Current?
The battleground,
No,
Silwan,
2014,
a neighborhood
2015.
where Arabs outnumber Jews 100 to 1. But Jewish activists with money are trying to change that and are buying up as many properties as they can.
When they take a home, they close the area around the home. They have guards and police that use guns. They drive around with an armoured vehicle. We don't interact with them.
Fahi Abu Diab has lived here his whole life. He fears that by changing the numbers on the ground, Palestinian neighborhoods will eventually become Jewish, and those Arabs who don't want to leave will be driven out. Abu Naba Abdallah's family has lived in this house since 1948. Behind him lives a Jewish family, but the neighbors could be living in different countries for the number of times they've spoken to each other.
This house is my identity. I was born here. My father brought me here the day I was born. The Jews tried to buy my house, but I won't sell it. I won't sell my house even if they pay me $10 million, which they did offer me 12 years ago.
Abdullah has appealed to the courts, but says it made no difference. He and his Arab neighbors have signed petitions, held demonstrations, and appealed for international assistance. They accuse the Israeli government of directly and indirectly helping Jews buy houses.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly said he has no intention of telling Jews they cannot buy apartments in Arab neighborhoods. He says it's private property, and both Jew and Arab have the right to buy wherever they want.
But the reality is not so black and white. Not a single new Arab neighborhood has been built in Jerusalem in the last 48 years. Spearheading the effort to make the city more Jewish is this man, who says his life mission is to help more Jews live in Jerusalem. He claims most of these houses were at one time Jewish.
Jews are not allowed to enter to 10 neighborhoods in Jerusalem by a government decision, Israeli government decision. Jews are not allowed to build in East Jerusalem just because one thing, they are Jews. This is apartheid.
Abu Naba Abdallah might insist he's going nowhere, but he's watching more and more of his neighbors packing up. An attractive offer of money to a family struggling to survive in a place that increasingly doesn't want them might not seem such a bad offer after all. Poilievre RT, Silwan, East Jerusalem.
In context, Gaza Palestinians have been under attack for, I think I've heard, 75 years. They've had their land taken away. They've been constantly bombarded, killed, shot, denied rights, human rights. Does that come up in the media a hell of a lot?
When you drive to Wendy's and order a single, you get more beef than the Whopper or the Big Mac. At Wendy's, you never have to ask, where's the beef?
I am neither Israeli or Palestinian, but I do recognize injustice when I see it. And I gotta wonder, why do our politicians, Pierre and Trudeau, sound like carbon copies of each other? There's no difference in our political stance on anything major.
It is with a combination of heartbreak and outrage that I join with all of you here today. Heartbreak for the innocent mothers, babies,
do you believe him?
Grandparents, party-goers, peace activists
Grandstanding.
who suddenly and inexplicably lost their lives
Sucking up for
the
Jewish
hands
votes.
of an unprecedented terrorist attack.
Right.
And outrage at the attackers. And so, in starting my remarks tonight, let me be explicitly clear.
Oh, please do.
Hamas is not a militant organization. It is not an activist organization. It is surely not a government.
Right.
Israel is planning to demolish up to 17,000 Arab buildings in the West Bank. That's according to a UN report. Human rights groups are accusing Israeli authorities of forcing Palestinians off their land to allow expansion for Jewish settlements. RT's Paula Sleer reports from Silwan, an area in Jerusalem which has become a flashpoint in the standoff between Arabs and Jews.
Just steps away from the old city of Jerusalem, a bitter war over land is playing out. The battleground, Silwan, a neighborhood where Arabs outnumber Jews 100 to 1. But Jewish activists with money are trying to change that and are buying up as many properties as they can.
When they take a home, they close the area around the home. They have guards and police that use guns. They drive around with an armored vehicle. We don't interact with them.
Fahi Abu Diab has lived here his whole life. He fears that by changing the numbers on the ground, Palestinian neighborhoods will eventually become Jewish, and those Arabs who don't want to leave will be driven out. Abu Naba Abdallah's family has lived in this house since 1948. Behind him lives a Jewish family, but the neighbors could be living in different countries for the number of times they've spoken to each other.
This house is my identity. I was born here. My father brought me here the day I was born. The Jews tried to buy my house, but I won't sell it. I won't sell my house even if they pay me $10 million, which they did offer me 12 years ago.
Abdullah has appealed to the courts, but says it made no difference. He and his Arab neighbors have signed petitions, held demonstrations, and appealed for international assistance. They accuse the Israeli government of directly and indirectly helping Jews buy houses.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly said he has no intention of telling Jews they cannot buy apartments in Arab neighborhoods. He says it's private property, and both Jew and Arab have the right to buy wherever they want.
So we got our little politicians spewing out this hatred of a certain group. Now listen, I'm not on either side, but what I'm saying is that if I was forced out of my house with what I could carry and lost everything because I lost everything, and then I saw my cities and country being bombarded, invaded over and over again, a little time, and then it's time for another war. And then I saw family members getting killed and stuff. Perhaps I would be a little resentful. Unfortunately, this is, what happens is that Palestinians, Hamas retaliates, and then Israel retaliates. 75 years of this. Fuck, grow up.
It is a sadistic, demonic, genocidal, terrorist death cult, and it must be defeated and destroyed.
What a smug little asshole. And people are cheering for him to be next Prime Minister? Give me a break.
Right. Mr. President, we voted against. It doesn't call for a ceasefire, and it doesn't treat the victims equally. What Hamas did on October 7th was a brutal act of terrorism. Why do our EU leaders find it so difficult to call out the activities of Israel as terrorism? Why are they so reluctant to actually say that Israel is a terrorist state? Why are they so reluctant to say that Israel behaves like an apartheid state and refuses to respect international law? Why does the EU still call Israel its like-minded partner? How can this brutal, lawless regime be our like-minded partner? The truth is, the European Union has been complicit with the war crimes that Israel has been carrying out against the Palestinians for years. There will be no justice for Palestinians as long as the US and EU continue to support state terrorism of Israel.
It's been a year since Israel launched Operation Protective Edge in Gaza. Its aim, according to Tel Aviv, to put an end to cross-border rocket fire by Hamas. Over 2,000 people lost their lives during the 50-day assault on the Palestinian enclave.
So, try and figure out why the Palestinians or Arabs are out protesting against Israel and for Hamas. They don't have anyone else they can turn to. The United Nations sure the hell isn't helping Palestine achieve statehood. Everyone talks about a two-state solution. Where is it? It won't be allowed to happen. Palestinians better just learn to live
on the first anniversary of the start of the conflict. RT's Lizzie Phelan went to Gaza to see how people are managing.
Shujaia was one of the worst-hit neighborhoods during Israel's offensive last year, but it almost looks as though the war happened yesterday. Not one home has been rebuilt. Here you can see numbers scrawled on the rubble of one person's house. This is a way of allocating which house belonged to which family. Even little of the rubble has been cleared, and people here are struggling to recover. Many people here are forced to continue to live in the rubble of their home, like this house, which houses a family of 7 people, and covering the holes in the wall that was caused by the shelling last year are just blankets and sheets of metal to protect this family from the elements. And they have just 8 hours of electricity here a day and get water from the municipality in containers like this one over here. And you can see that the house is barely safe to live in. Here, the staircase which leads up to the second floor where the family sleep. Now, this family are trying to rebuild a bit of their house with leftover from the rubble, which you can see just outside, and they're getting bits and pieces to try to make this house a little bit habitable until they have another place to move to.
بقى بيت مكون منيح ومقوى مظبوط، وبقى كمان في كمان الصدابق فوق جايز واحد دجيزه مع هالصور هذا الضرب والخبط. البيت كله اتبهدل طبش تكسر، ما ضلش لا شبابيك ولا ضل فيه شيء. وبعد الاشي يعني صلح حسابه، يعني صلح من مصاريه. مش يعني ايش اخذ له $1000 $1000 لا 7-8 دولار ايش بده يعمل؟ اكل وشرب ولا اجار دور. انا بيسوونيش ولا حاجه والله.
It's not just building materials that are in desperately short supply. Most of Gaza's industry has been destroyed, and last year Israel bombed many industrial plants, putting 12,000 additional people out of work. This is one of them, Gaza's only soft drink factory.
So what I'm asking the international community to push hard on the Israeli government to let all the materials to come. We will have Gaza 90-95% come down and settle, because all the people wants to go for work. But if he doesn't have a work and he's losing the hope, he will go for resistance.
The sea, at least, should provide an economic lifeline. Around 30,000 Palestinians depend on Gaza's fishing industry. Under the 1993 Oslo Accords, Palestinians should be allowed to sail out 20 nautical miles, but this has continuously been shrunk by Israel. Since last June, they were supposed to allow Palestinians to sail out 6 nautical miles, but human rights groups have documented a series of cases of Palestinians who dare to leave the dock being harassed, and 3 have been shot since last September.
ال6 ميل أنا بقول لك 6 ميل إذا إحنا بنتجاوز فيهم في عندنا هو البحر ما أنت عارف في جذب وجزر طيار ممكن الطيار ياخذني أكثر من 6 ميل هذا شيء غصب عني مش بخاطري برضو بيجي لك يعني حتى لو بقيت على حد 6 ميل بيجي لك بياخذ شبك منك.
Blockaded by land, air and sea and constantly living on the edge, anticipating the next round of relentless bombardment, Gaza's reputation as the world's largest open-air prison is a reality that few see hope of escaping from. Lizzie Phelan in the Gaza Strip for RT.
We'll be bringing you more coverage of the situation in Gaza as the week progresses right here on RT International.
Another heavy night of bombardment in Gaza.
Israel has made extremely clear that it's in this for a long term.
No warning was given. This incident of the United Nations school hit by Israeli tank shells. Protesters are clashing with Israeli troops here in the occupied West Bank. More than a month's worth of fighting.
First, let me begin by being absolutely clear. Canada, unequivocally and in the strongest possible terms, condemns these terrorist attacks perpetrated by Hamas. We stand with Israel and reaffirm our support for Israel's right to defend itself in accordance with international law.
Trudeau is not a statesman. He's not a leader. He's just a broken record repeating the same old lies over and over again. Again, let me tell you, I'm not for Israel. I'm not for Palestine. I am for peace. I want what do I want? Who gives a flying leap? But I would like to see peace return to all the conflict zone. Isn't that what the United Nations was all about? It wasn't about the U.S. and other countries deciding what is going to be right and wrong, and then bringing along little wannabes like Trudeau or Poilievre, Pierre, to do their bidding.
They were brutal and horrific. We heard stories of people who were there at the music festival for peace when gunmen started shooting. We saw images of parents shielding their children to protect them from rockets. Women and kids have been forced out of their homes and kidnapped. The images and the imagining what it must have been. Middle of the night, as doors were kicked in, people ripped from their beds. It's unimaginable. We know that even Holocaust survivors were kidnapped. The indiscriminate killing of civilians, the sexual violence,